Daniel Carter never imagined that betrayal could arrive in a velvet box. It was a rainy Thursday morning when he found the package on his front porch. Small, wrapped in silver paper with a black ribbon. Elegant, deliberate. He picked it up, mildly confused, half expecting it to be a delayed birthday gift or something Emily ordered online. Inside was a luxury watch, gleaming under the pale light, expensive enough to raise his eyebrows. But what sent a chill through his spine was a note tucked beneath it. "You don't deserve her, but thanks for keeping her warm until I came." His first thought was that it had been delivered to the wrong address. Maybe it was some strange prank. But no. The card was addressed to him, in handwriting he didn't recognize. Daniel stood at the doorway a moment longer, the rain misting over his shoulders, the watch heavy in his hand. Something was off. Deeply, horribly off. For most of his 35 years, Daniel had lived a quiet life. He was the kind of man who kept his promises, paid his taxes on time, and remembered anniversaries without needing a calendar alert. He worked as a systems analyst for a mid-sized tech company, not glamorous, but stable. He wasn't rich, but he wasn't struggling. He'd married Emily 7 years ago, after 3 years of dating. She was warm, intelligent, beautiful in a quiet, magnetic way. Their life together wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, or so he thought. Lately, though, something had shifted. Emily had grown distant. She smiled less, spent more time on her phone, claimed to be working late, or meeting friends he didn't know. When he asked, she brushed it off. "You're overthinking," she'd say with a forced laugh. "You always get anxious when work gets stressful." He had wanted to believe her. He really had. But now, standing in their shared kitchen staring at a note from a stranger thanking him for keeping her warm, belief had turned to suspicion and suspicion to dread. Daniel set the watch down on the counter, as if it might burn his fingers. He didn't confront her right away. That wasn't his way. Instead, he waited. He observed. He paid attention to details he had once overlooked. Sudden text messages that made her smile before she quickly turned the screen away, unaccounted for gaps in her schedule, changes in her scent when she came home, cologne that wasn't his. Each sign chipped away at the illusion of their marriage. A week after the mysterious gift arrived, Daniel installed a discreet piece of software on her phone. Something simple, just enough to mirror messages and call logs. He told himself he didn't want to be the kind of man who spied on his wife. But after the watch, after the note, after the laughter that wasn't meant for him anymore, he knew the truth was the only thing that could save or destroy him. What he found gutted him. His wife wasn't just cheating. She was in love. The messages were explicit, raw, filled with promises and plans. Her lover's name was Lucas, a name Daniel had never heard her mention. He was her gym trainer. Tall, fit, cocky. The kind of man Daniel had always thought women grew out of wanting. Apparently, not all women did. There were photos, videos, even a private nickname, My Lion. Daniel read it all in silence, his hands trembling, rage blooming like fire under his skin. But he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He didn't confront her. Not yet, because in that moment, Daniel Carter made a decision, not just to survive this betrayal, but to own it, to make it unforgettable. If Lucas had taken his wife, Daniel was going to take something far more precious in return, not with violence, not with rage, but with precision and patience, and the coldest kind of revenge. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He lay in the dark beside Emily, the woman he had promised to love and protect, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath, steady, peaceful, like nothing in her world was wrong. He stared at the ceiling and felt everything unravel inside him. There were no tears, just a hollow sort of ache that sat deep in his chest, pulsing with every beat of his heart. He woke before sunrise, showered, and made coffee like always. Emily kissed him on the cheek as she left for her early yoga class. He smiled back, the same way he had the day before. Only this time, he knew exactly where she was going. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. That afternoon, Daniel sat alone in his home office, laptop open, watching the messages come in on his mirrored app. Texts between Emily and Lucas were still flowing freely. She sent him a selfie from the locker room, Lucas replied with heart emojis and a comment that made Daniel grip the edge of his desk until his knuckles turned white. They were planning a weekend away. Emily claimed it was a work retreat. Lucas promised rose petals and champagne. It was all so casual, so practiced, as if Daniel had never existed. But he did exist, and he wasn't going to let them erase him so easily. The next step was learning who Lucas really was. Not the version Emily saw. The charming, sculpted fitness coach with motivational quotes and smooth smiles, but the man behind a carefully filtered image. Daniel didn't go to the gym, but he signed up the next morning. He wanted a closer look. He watched from a distance. Lucas was exactly what he expected. A magnetic presence, confident to the point of arrogance, quick with flirty remarks, especially to the married women who giggled like schoolgirls in his boot camp classes. His Instagram was a curated shrine to himself. Shirtless poses, protein shake promotions, and selfies with clients. But Daniel wasn't looking for vanity. He was looking for weakness. It didn't take long to find it. Lucas had a past. A few years back, he'd been fired from a gym in another city for inappropriate behavior with a client. No charges were filed, but the scandal was enough to force him to move and rebrand himself. A little more digging revealed more. Unpaid debts, sketchy business deals, fake reviews, and questionable certifications. His training program was unlicensed. His income? Mostly off of books. Lucas had built his life on a lie. Daniel smiled for the first time in days. While Emily was sneaking around, planning romantic weekends and lying with practiced ease, Daniel was building something else, a web. Slowly, quietly, methodically. Every lie Lucas had ever told, every corner he'd cut, every rule he'd bent, Daniel was going to drag into the light. But he wouldn't just expose him. No, that would be too easy, too fast. He wanted Lucas to lose everything the way Daniel had, piece by piece. Back home, Emily was acting normal, too normal. She still made dinner, still asked how his day went, still laughed at reruns of shows they'd watched a dozen times. But Daniel could see it now, how forced it was, how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, how her phone was always upside down on the table, how she never looked at him too long. He wondered if she was waiting for the right moment to leave. Maybe she didn't have the courage to say it. Or maybe she just didn't want to be the bad guy. Maybe she thought she could keep both lives, her loyal husband and her thrilling lover, without consequences. But Daniel had no intention of giving her the choice. One night, while she was sleeping, he scrolled through her text again. There was a new message. Lucas, I think he knows. You've been weird lately. Be careful. Emily, he doesn't. He's just been busy with work. Don't get paranoid. Daniel laughed under his breath. They were starting to squirm. Good. Over the next week, Daniel began playing the long game. He created a new identity online, a wealthy entrepreneur with a passion for health and fitness. He reached out to Lucas, pretending to be an investor looking to partner on a new luxury gym franchise. Lucas bid immediately. They exchanged emails, set up video calls. Lucas pitched his vision, desperate for funding, blind to the trap being laid in front of him. Daniel kept Emily close during all of this. He took her out for dinner, booked a weekend getaway of their own, bought her a new necklace. If she felt guilty, she didn't show it. If she suspected anything, she didn't say a word. She was either too comfortable or too stupid to notice the shift in his behavior. But Daniel wasn't angry anymore. Not really. He had moved past anger, past heartbreak. Now there was just focus, cold, surgical, calculated. He watched them both walk through their perfect little fantasy, completely unaware that the floor beneath them was already cracking. He wasn't going to shout. He wasn't going to fight. He was going to dismantle their world, one lie at a time. Lucas had no idea he was walking into a trap. To him, Nathan Grayson was just another deep-pocketed investor, the kind of man who liked the idea of owning gyms more than actually using them. Polished LinkedIn profile, a sleek business website, and even an online magazine article about fitness startups with Nathan's name in it. All fake, all created by Daniel in less than a week. Years of IT experience, online marketing work, and a knack for details had made him the perfect ghost. He spoke to Lucas over Zoom using a voice modulator. Video blurred just enough to appear like a man concerned about privacy. He spun stories about venture capital firms in Dubai and tech investors in Singapore, casually dropping fake names and dollar amounts that made Lucas's eyes light up like a jackpot machine. Lucas was hooked. The conversation shifted from polite curiosity to obsession almost overnight. Lucas started emailing business proposals, half-baked PowerPoints filled with buzzwords and stolen infographics. Daniel read through them with silent amusement. The man was ambitious. Sure, but sloppy, greedy, overconfident. And nothing was more dangerous than a man who believed he was smarter than everyone else. Daniel strung him along, dangling vague promises of a $2 million gym franchise in an upmarket district. He suggested Nathan might even make Lucas the face of the brand. Lucas began calling him bro in emails. He sent progress photos of himself lifting weights, screenshot of fake followers on Instagram, even suggestions for branded gym gear. Daniel saved every single file. Meanwhile, Emily continued playing the role of the unaware wife. She was now fully divided between her double life and the home they shared. Daniel could see it in the way she dressed when she left for errands, tighter clothes, heavier perfume. She came back smiling but exhausted. Her lies had become routine, mechanical. Daniel didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, he began engineering her doubts, subtly, silently. One night at dinner, he mentioned how some fitness influencers get sued over false advertising or harassment claims. It's always the ones who look too perfect, he said, swirling wine in his glass. You know the type, charming, sleazy, like they've practiced lying their whole life. She froze for a second before forcing a laugh. Why do you sound so bitter? She asked. Just observant, he replied with a smile. In the following weeks, he planted more seeds. Opened articles about gym scams on the laptop they shared. Left tabs open with legal cases involving fraudulent trainers. Even played a podcast in the car about how people get caught in toxic relationships with manipulative partners. Emily began to shift. Not much, but just enough. Lucas, meanwhile, was slipping deeper into Daniel's carefully built illusion. They agreed to a pre-investment trial run. Daniel told him to start scouting properties and working with a financial consultant. One Daniel recommended. The consultant was another fake, a contact Daniel had created through a string of burner emails and a voice-over AI service. Lucas borrowed money from friends and maxed out a credit card to secure a lease on a small warehouse he believed would be the pilot location for LionFit, the franchise they had co-developed together. He even paid a deposit on custom gym equipment. Daniel didn't stop him. Lucas's ego was so inflated. He didn't question why Nathan never met him in person. He didn't think twice when Daniel used business buzzwords he didn't understand or made vague promises without timelines. He just wanted it so badly, the success, the image, the status, that he willingly ignored every red flag. That was when Daniel decided it was time to tighten the noose. Using the mirror phone app, Daniel forwarded Emily and Lucas's messages to a dummy email account. He edited screenshots and compiled them into a neat file labeled evidence, sexual misconduct and financial fraud. Then he drafted an anonymous tip and sent it to several of Lucas's gym clients, the gym's board, and a local journalist known for covering community scandals. He didn't press send just yet. Timing was everything. One night, while Emily was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Daniel glanced at the screen. A message from Lucas. Lucas, did you tell him anything? He's acting weird. I got too much riding on this deal. If he finds out, I'm screwed. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment, then picked up the phone and replied, pretending to be her. Daniel, posing as Emily, you're being paranoid. He's clueless. Just relax. He knew Lucas would believe it. He wanted to believe it. And that was the final piece of the puzzle. Daniel sat alone later that night in the backyard, listening to the wind stir the trees, the warm summer breeze brushing against his face. There was a calmness to it all now. Not peace exactly. Peace was too soft a word. This was clarity, cold and sharp and complete. They had taken something from him. Not just a marriage, not just love, but respect. The the quiet dignity he had built his life around. They thought they'd get away with it, that he'd roll over, walk away, or worse, break down. But Daniel didn't break. He calculated. He turned betrayal into strategy, pain into purpose. And now the stage was set. Lucas thought he was about to become a fitness mogul. Emily thought she had everything under control. But neither of them knew they were standing on a trapdoor. All Daniel had to do was pull the lever. Lucas was riding high. He posted a flashy Instagram reel announcing a massive project in the works. Hashtag with hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag fitness brand, hashtag legacy. His followers, many of them bought, flooded the comments with fire emojis and praise. He walked into gym like a king, barking orders, wearing his new branded Lion Fit hoodie like it was armor. Daniel watched it all unfold from a distance, every move a step closer to collapse. The first strike came quietly. One of Lucas's clients, a married woman in her 40s, received an anonymous email. Attached were screenshots of her private messages with Lucas, some flirtatious, others graphic. The sender? Untraceable. But the message was clear. Does your husband know what your trainer does after hours? Within 2 days, the woman pulled her membership and threatened to file a complaint with the gym's management. She wasn't the only one. Daniel had sent 4 emails in total, each targeted, each backed with real screenshots, not fabricated, just delivered at the right moment, to the right people. The gym's manager, overwhelmed by the sudden chaos, suspended Lucas pending investigation. Lucas was furious, confused, blaming everyone but himself. He stormed into the office demanding answers, but all he got were cold stares and HR warnings. Daniel didn't stop there. Using the fake investor identity, Nathan Grayson, he sent Lucas a contract for the Lion Fit franchise, a 40-page legal document filled with impossible clauses, financial liabilities, and a buried clause that placed all legal responsibility for the business venture on Lucas himself. Lucas, desperate to move forward, signed it without reading past the buzzwords. That signature would be the rope he tied around his own neck. 3 days later, Daniel pulled the lever. First, he sent the edited file of texts and photos, evidence, sexual misconduct and financial fraud, to a well-followed local journalist known for exposing community corruption. Within hours, the story was online. Scandal at local gym. Popular trainer accused of harassment, fake credentials, and fraudulent business practices. It exploded across social media. The gym terminated Lucas by midday. Clients bailed. Sponsors cut ties. His Instagram followers plummeted and comments turned brutal. By nightfall, Lucas had deactivated all his accounts. His reputation, the carefully built illusion, shattered in under 24 hours. Emily read the article at the kitchen table, frozen, pale. Daniel watched her from across the room, sipping coffee. She looked up at him. "Did you know about this?" He met her eyes and gave the faintest smile. "Strange world, isn't it?" She didn't respond. The next day, Lucas called Emily nonstop. She didn't answer. When she finally picked up, Daniel listened quietly from the hallway. Lucas's voice was frantic, shaking. "Everything's gone. It's all falling apart. I don't know what to do. I think someone set me up." Emily whispered back, "I can't talk. Not now. You said he didn't know anything. I thought he didn't." The call ended with Lucas screaming her name before she hung up. Daniel stepped into the room. "Everything okay?" he asked calmly. She flinched, then nodded quickly. "Just work stuff." He nodded. "Right." She didn't meet his gaze. That weekend, Daniel made his final move. He scheduled a private meeting with Lucas. Not as Nathan, not behind a fake account, but as himself. Lucas showed up at the empty warehouse he had leased for the Lion Fit gym. He looked like a ghost. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled, hair unkempt. Daniel was already there, standing in the center of the gutted room, like a judge waiting at the gallows. Lucas froze when he saw him. "You," he said, voice cracking. Daniel smiled. "Expecting someone else?" Lucas looked around. "Why are you here?" "I built this place with you," Daniel said softly. "In a way, I figured I should see it before it collapses." Lucas took a shaky step forward. You did this. All of it. I did, Daniel admitted, but only after you gave me the reason. Lucas laughed bitterly. She came to me, not the other way around. You think this makes you a man? You ruined my life. Daniel stepped closer. No, Lucas. You ruined your own life. I just gave you the space to do it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick, loaded with all the rage, guilt, and ruin between them. Daniel tilted his head. Let me ask you something. Was it worth it? Lucas's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Daniel turned to leave, pausing at the door. You took my wife, he said over his shoulder. I took your life apart. We're even. He walked away without looking back. At home, Emily sat on the edge of their bed, crying. She had read every article, seen every photo, heard every rumor. The fantasy had turned into a nightmare. Lucas was a fraud, a predator, and worse. She had chosen him over the man who had only ever tried to protect her. When Daniel returned home, she stood to speak, but he held up a hand. I know, he said. I've always known. Tears ran down her face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely and stupid, and you were selfish, Daniel interrupted, his voice steady. And now you're sorry because it didn't work out, not because you hurt me. She couldn't argue with that. He picked up his overnight bag, already packed, and slung it over his shoulder. Where are you going? She asked weakly. Daniel looked her in the eye, forward, and with that he left. Emily showed up at her parents' house the next evening, mascara streaked and phone clutched like a lifeline. She had tried calling Daniel 4 times. He hadn't picked up once. Her messages, long, apologetic, full of promises and regret, were left unread. Daniel didn't need to read them. He had already heard everything she was going to say, played it over in his head 100 times. None of it would undo what she did. Instead, he focused on the final chapter of his revenge. He invited Lucas to meet him one last time. A neutral place. The small cafe near the city park. The same one Daniel used to take Emily to when they were first dating. It felt poetic somehow. A place built on memories, now used to burn them down. Lucas arrived late, looking even more broken than before. His hair was unwashed, his hoodie stretched and stained. He sat across from Daniel, not bothering with pleasantries. What do you want? He asked, voice hoarse. You've already ruined everything. Daniel stirred his coffee slowly. You still don't get it, do you? Lucas's hands trembled. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my home. Emily won't talk to me. People spit when they see me on the street. What more do you want? Daniel leaned forward, voice calm but cold. I want you to remember this feeling. Every single day. I want you to know that the man you underestimated, the one you mocked with your little love notes and stolen kisses, he outsmarted you without lifting a finger. Lucas said nothing. Daniel continued. You thought you were smarter, more desirable. You thought I was weak. You were, Lucas muttered. You let her walk all over you. You were boring, predictable. Daniel smiled, but there was no humor in it. Maybe, but in the end, I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to touch you. I didn't even need to tell her. I let you destroy yourself. Lucas, I just gave you the push. Lucas clenched his jaw. So what now? You want me to beg? Apologize? No, Daniel said. I want you to live with it. I want you to rebuild your life from nothing, knowing that you could have had everything if you just stayed in your lane. He stood, tossing a few bills on the table. You took my wife, he said quietly. I took your life apart. That's the deal. There's nothing left for us to say. As he turned to leave, Lucas said, She still loved me. Daniel paused, turned his head just enough to look at him. No, he replied. She loved the version of you you pretended to be. But now she sees what I always saw, a coward playing king. Lucas looked down at the table. Defeated, small, Daniel walked out into the golden light of early evening. The air smelled like late summer, warm pavement, sweet leaves, and the faint trace of rain. He felt no triumph, no joy, just relief. Later that night, Emily stood in the doorway of their, now her, home when Daniel returned for the last of his things. She looked thinner, worn. Her eyes were red from crying. "Please," she whispered, "don't go. I'll do anything to fix this." Daniel placed a box in the trunk of his car and turned to face her. "You broke something I can't fix," he said softly. "I was lonely," she said again, as if repeating it might make it sound less pitiful. "So was I," he replied. "I just chose to stay." She took a step forward. "You're not even angry anymore. That's the worst part. It's like I don't matter at all." Daniel looked at her with a kind of sadness that went beyond heartbreak. "You mattered," he said, "more than anything. That's why it hurt. But you didn't fight for us. You fought for him. And now that he's gone, you wanted to clean up the mess?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I wish I could take it back," she whispered. "I know," Daniel said, "but I don't." She blinked. "What?" "I don't wish it never happened," he said, "because now I know who you are, and I finally know who I am." She had no words for that. Daniel got in the car and drove away, not toward revenge, not away from pain, but towards something he hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. The road stretched ahead in the fading light, a ribbon of possibility cutting to the quiet suburbs and open highways. Daniel didn't look back. There was no bitterness left to carry, no anger burning behind his eyes. That part of him had finally been laid to rest. He thought about the month behind him, the lies, the betrayal, the slow unraveling of the life he'd once dreamed about. It was painful, yes, but it was also a lesson, one carved into soul like a scar. But scars, he reminded himself, could heal. Daniel found a small apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a clean space with a window that looked out onto a bustling street where life moved in unpredictable, imperfect ways. He started running again, not for revenge or strength, but for peace. The rhythm of his feet hitting pavement reminded him that he was still alive, still capable of moving forward. He didn't reach out to Emily, not because he hated her, but because some wounds needed time and space to mend. If they ever could. She was part of his past now, a painful chapter, but not the whole book. Instead, Daniel threw himself into work. He returned to the tech world he'd left behind, taking freelance projects that challenged his skills and kept his mind sharp. Slowly, he built a new network of friends, people who knew him not as a betrayed husband or the man consumed by revenge, but as Daniel, the quiet, steady man who refused to be broken. One evening, months after the storm had passed, Daniel sat at a small cafe, reading a book and sipping black coffee. Across the room, a woman smiled at him, and he smiled back, not with caution, but with a quiet hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was something new waiting for him after all. He had taken apart the life of the man who destroyed his marriage, but in doing so, he had rebuilt himself from the rubble, and that was his true victory.